This is the RPM Podcast, starring Eric Brennan,
created solely to make women cry,
Sam Ballard Jr.,
Therapy, lobotomy, Jesus, mix it all in.
Scott Riggleman,
fungus-faced toad sucker, yellow-bellied gutless slug,
and Josh Matthews.
Dude, I'm such a jerk. It's ridiculous.
Hey, everybody. And for the 113th time, welcome to the RPM Podcast. Big shout out to Josh and Scott for holding down the fort last weekend. And thank you for everyone else who held down the fort since I wasn't here. Eric Brennan came back. Look at that. Miracles do happen. It's a packed episode tonight, as we were going to have three guests on, but one bailed and the other one stuck in Hurricane Florence Jr. out there, apparently, over in New Jersey. As always, Josh Matthews, the mastermind behind the RPM Podcast. Josh, how are you, sir?
I have mismatched socks.
Oh, we're doing that whole little fun thing, too.
Yeah.
I'll think of something fun. I woke up this morning. How funny is that?
Yeah.
Across the table. Yeah, you're right. Across the table from Scott is Tim Riggleman. Tim, how are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you.
I know you're fresh off of Loudon. We have our special guest I'm about to announce real quick, but I hope your weekend went well, but we'll touch on that in a little bit.
Okay.
On the screen, sharing the screen to my left or right or wherever he's underneath me or above me, Scott Riggleman, how are you, sir?
To your left.
I'm good. I guess I'm back on the bench. I got to host the show last week, but now you're back, so I'm back on the bench.
You know what? I'm a bench sitter. I'll sit on the bench for you, Scott. And our special guest for this first segment of the RPM Podcast is Bruce Cook, who is the crew chief for Brandon McReynolds in the K&N Series. Bruce, how are you, sir?
Good. Hope everybody's night's good.
I think so. Another two tonight on the RPM Podcast.
Now that we're actually going, it's good.
Right, now that we're actually going. That's right. So I hope everyone's weekend went well. I hope our listeners, you had a great week. Hopefully, I know the weather up north's been pretty rough. I know it's pretty rough down here the last couple of weeks. So hopefully you stay safe. And we're about to dive into episode 113 real quick. So I brought up New Hampshire because I know, Tim, you were there. Not quite Canada, so you did attend the race. But Bruce was there this weekend in the K&N Series race, and he actually helped Brandon McReynolds to a K&N victory. So, Bruce, how was that like? How was your weekend? Now that I spoiled how well everything went.
My weekend was good. Practice and qualifying went well, and to win the race and come out of there, Brandon's first East victory, I guess. He's won before in a K&N Series, but only, a West victory in Iowa or something like that, somewhere out there. But only, yeah. But it went good. It's a great weekend.
Right. Well, that's fantastic to hear. I know for those who don't know, Brandon McReynolds is the son of former Dale Earnhardt Senior crew chief and crew chief in the NASCAR Cup Series, Larry McReynolds. Is that correct?
Yep, that's exactly correct.
Cool. I'm glad I didn't get that wrong live. I'll tell you that.
Bruce, tell us a little bit. Bruce, tell us a little bit about the car that you bought up there. Was it a brand new car? Is it a car that you use at short tracks? Do you have a special car for a mile track like New Hampshire?
No, for that, believe it or not, for this gentleman, John Visconti, he owns it. We only have one car, basically. It was built, I think, 2 years ago by Tommy Baldwin when Tommy still had his Cup team. They built it for 2 races, and they raced it about 2 years ago. But then it sat for a year. And it's the car we use. We've used it at Bristol this year. We use it at Thompson. We use it at the first Loudon, second Loudon. And we'll use it again next week at Dover. But we only have one car. I have another car, but it's a different client. It's one of my clients from Bakersfield, California. I have it out here getting it ready to go back to California and race the last race out there. But we use it as a backup just in case anything happens. You don't want to ever go to Loudon or somewhere like that with just one car. So fortunate enough, I have a couple different clients with different cars, and I'm able to swindle deals and make things happen and give people some backup cars when they need them and some people some primary cars when they need them too. So to answer your question, just one car. It's basically gets changed from short track to intermediate to big track like we went last weekend.
Now, what kind of changes do you make to take it from a short track to an intermediate?
You can't change the body much. We change a lot of chassis stuff. We'll put different housings in them, different cambers, different skew, different A-arms, different springs, nose weight, different caster settings. You name it. Truck arm settings, truck arms. Yeah, you kind of have the same chassis, and then everything that bolts to it gets changed.
Okay, that's fair. I wasn't sure if it was just as simple as, all right, well, we're going to swap over to this gear and, maybe,
No, I wish. I wish it was that simple.
If only.
And now you said Tommy Baldwin built the car. Did he build the chassis, or he just put the car together?
No,
or is it like a
he just
Hutchinson chassis? Or?
He didn't. Tommy didn't have a chassis company. Everybody used Ronnie Hopkins down here. Hopkins hasn't been in business for 3 years, I think now. So it was one of the last cars built by Hopkins. You basically order them how you want them. They build a chassis. You get it. You put your sheet metal in the inside of it, and then you have your body guys. Whether Tommy had his guys hanging, I don't think he did. I think he had somebody else do it. But either way, you order it from a chassis manufacturer down here, and then basically you put your stuff onto it. Most people in the K&N series and the ARCA series, for that fact, because it's the same chassis, same body. They'll even like Gilliland that has four teams, and MDM that has 4 teams. They don't hang them themselves either. They have them built. The chassis are built. There's many of them that are KBM chassis down here, but this happens to be an original, one of the last Hopkins.
Wow.
Hopkins is out of business because he was a long-time chassis builder down there.
Yeah, he was a chassis builder from the early 70s until I want to say 3 years ago is when he shut down, and it's just a product of being in South Carolina, and a lot of people still use them. But when you have companies like Penske and Roush and KBM starting to build their own chassis, Kyle Busch hit his Rowdy chassis. He kind of revolutioned everything down here, where they just he's got his company that builds his own, but they're more busy building everybody else's chassis than they are Kyle's.
When I used to go down there, I mean, there was a few other ones. There were, of course, Hopkins. There was also Hutchinson, Peg, and Billy Hess.
Mm-hmm.
Are those guys still in business down there?
Nope, Billy just closed last year. Billy Hess closed down. I actually have one of his late models, his last late models he just built. I just bought a couple weeks ago to have a couple of my other drivers that are younger and trying to get a shot in the business. I bought that to get them rolling down here. So that's a Hess, but he has shut down. Laughlin was around for years. He shut down.
Oh, Jesus.
Hutch Pagan hasn't probably been around for, 15 years. So that's showing mine your age right there.
Yeah. It was funny you say that, man. I walked into Hutchinson Pagan one time, and it was kind of when the truck series was starting, and they had a bunch of trucks built there. And I guess I walked in there on the wrong day because they were going through a list of names of people that owed them money. And they were on the phone calling these people trying to get money. And that list looked like a phone book. I couldn't believe how many people owed that man money. It was unbelievable.
And that's believe it or not, that's everybody down here has gotten themselves in that way, sooner or later. That's basically what happened to Hopkins. He still had many clients, many people were doing stuff for him. I mean, Christ, for years, KHI chassis, where I come from for 6 years, they were Hopkins. Everybody thought we built their own, but they were Hopkins, and we just put our own points in them. So he had a lot of customers. I hate to say it, but maybe poorly mismanaged business practices, and just people owing him money. He just couldn't collect and couldn't keep the business going that way. And finally, just got probably aggravating the Rodney Senior, and he just said, "I'm better off just enjoying the rest of my life and letting somebody else do it."
All right. Well, now back to your weekend. I mean, thanks for updating us on all the chassis builders down there. And the bodies now, they are what are they calling the composite bodies now?
Yeah, they're a composite. Basically, they call them a flange fit composite body. They're just basically a composite material, and you buy them in pieces. The roof is separate than the quarter panels. Quarter panels are separate than the doors. Doors are separate than the front fenders, and they're basically the same as an ARCA car that you see. The only difference is ARCA car has built-in roof flaps and built-in hood flaps, but other than that, it's the same exact body.
Wow.
What's the cost of a car? One of the flange fit bodies, a complete body with the glass and everything.
Complete body with the glass and everything is probably around $7,000.
Oh wow!
The problem is it takes about $7,000 to hang it.
So you got $14,000 into them when you're done.
Yeah, you're at about $13,000, $14,000 when it's all said and done. By the time you you take it, and us racers, we can't leave something alone, leave it stock. So you get it out of the box. The first thing you want to do is with it. So excuse my language. The first thing you want to do is mess with it. So we'll all get torches out and heat guns out and concrete blocks and everything else to try and make stuff flatter or shape it better and stuff like that. But that's where all the money comes in the project. It's easy to buy a body for $7,000 and then go get it installed for $7,000, but you're going to run like $14,000. Where there's other companies down here, they're going to run like $20,000.
But what's the big advantage of those flange fit bodies? Like now, if you would have had problems in practice at New Hampshire, like say if Brandon would have ripped off the fender,
the nice part about
able to replace.
Yeah, I think you guys probably see it on the Xfinity side now too, because they're basically 5-star flange fit bodies too. They look like Xfinity cars, but the nice part about them is you can really get into a wall. They're very durable. When you break the ballast inside of them, which is, it's basically a plastic or a glue-like piece. That's actually the structure part of it. When you break that, you have to replace it. If you don't break it, it's not a big deal, and they do take a beating. But the nice part about it is you can just unbolt the quarter panel at the road. Silicone where your crush panel is, put a new one on, put some vinyl over it, and you never even know what happened. So they're very good when it comes to that. People have taken it to the extremes when you do a lot of body work on these things and go to the wind tunnel like we have with this car lately and do a lot of things to it. You know exactly where the sweet spots are on it. So if you do run it into the wall, you basically are not going to get it back at the racetrack where you want it aero-wise, but it'll look good.
Okay. Now, do you bring the body parts with you, or is there a supplier at the track that sells the body panels?
Some people have extra body panels with them. We don't. Not a huge team for what we're doing. We only ran 5 races so far this year. We're only going to run 6 and probably the same next year. But the bigger teams that run for points, they'll keep quarter panels and doors and fenders and stuff like that with them. There's really not a parts truck at the track that carries that stuff. That's a 5-star only deal in Wisconsin. But there's between all the teams, it's just like your stuff up there. Everybody's pretty much family. If somebody's really hurting for somebody, for something, and you don't really think the guy's an asshole, you'll give it to him.
So,
well, actually, I have one question regarding these panels that are, because I mean, when it came out that Xfinity was going to start running the composite and all that, as opposed to sheet metal, I was worried that these things were going to basically explode. I mean, I was thinking more like Formula One or IndyCar when you hit these carbon fiber parts and then they just explode and then you have these sharp splinters everywhere. And they seem to be holding up better than that. But, I mean, is there any, like, Bondo work that you can do to try to save yourself some money instead of replacing a whole panel?
Yes, you can repair them. We don't use Bondo a lot on them. What we use is like a 2-part epoxy, and it basically is the same thing that you're putting onto it. Down here we get them big old caulking tubes like you would get at Lowe's and stuff. But Bondo's forbidden down here in a lot of series because we can really shape something the way we want it. With NASCAR not liking it, but they don't really like Bondo, and I don't like the dust. So a lot of it is epoxy, and that's how they get fixed.
Okay. Well, more that you're able to kind of, if it's let's say minor damage, you can kind of keep that panel and save yourself, a couple $1,000.
Yes, it all depends. I mean, obviously, I think a quarter panel is, $750. It all depends on what division. If you're an Xfinity, they really frown on you trying to repair something with a piece of sandpaper and some paint. They don't like that. They'd rather you just replace it. K&N series, they understand the budgets, NASCAR, so they allow you to do stuff like that. Same in ARCA. They'll allow you to fix it. It's just like I said before earlier. We as crew chiefs and stuff like that, when we repair something, we can make it a lot better than it was if they let us do it.
That reminds me back in the day in the early 90s when I was helping the Truexes and the Busch nose cars, there was a couple guys, they would show up with Buicks with Oldsmobile noses on. Back then, NASCAR didn't care. We were at a little quarter mile like Star or Riverside Park or something
didn't quite matter. It didn't quite matter as much back then when they were doing stuff like that. But as racing's evolved and manufacturers evolved and people like me and you sitting in the stands, looking at something like that going, wow, that's an Oldsmobile nose on a Monte Carlo. That's really not the right way to do it. That's how things have changed.
So tell us a little bit about your weekend. Where did you qualify? How many laps did you lead? How did the race itself go for you?
We basically, for some reason this time around, they took NASCAR. We were up there 2 months ago when the Cup was there and Xfinity was there. And we had a good race, but it went 70. It was a 70-lap race. It went green the whole way. I think we qualified fifth, finished fifth. Nobody passed each other. It was kind of boring. So this time around, they took gear away from us. They took 10 counts of gear away. They didn't have that grip strip, I call it, put down like they've been putting down at a bunch of tracks. So we basically had a different track than what we raced on. So they brought us up there on Thursday and had a practice day all day. We tried some stuff that I've been wanting to try all year that I've tried in other divisions and had success with. So we did that on Thursday. Kind of unloaded. I think we were P1 for most of practice. A couple guys mocked up and did qualifying runs, and we wound up third or something on Friday during practice. But we didn't make a mock-up run, so I was okay by getting beat with tires and tape, knowing that we had a really good car. And then we qualified third, I think. Driver got out and marched right to the trailer, didn't want to talk to anybody. So that's usually a sign that he knows what happened. So we didn't say too much then. We took our beat and missed by 5/100 or something. But as soon as the race started, I think it took him 15 or 16 laps. He was leading, and I think he led 85 or 90 laps of the 125. So we got kind of tight on the long run. There was a couple fuel issues in the beginning where we didn't pit the first segment, I'll call it. We stayed out, and it put us right within 2 laps of running out of fuel. But that's a chance you got to take sometimes to win races. So we went for track position instead of, fuel, and it worked out. Led most of the last segment until about 6 to go, and got a little tight, got a little just slowed down just enough where second place had caught us. The good part about it is third place was still a straightaway behind us. So he couldn't hold him off. So we let him go. And then the caution come out the next lap, and for some reason when our car would cool down and it would just take off on restart. So he took off on the next restart.
He got a hell of a restart that last time.
Yeah, he's no joke when it comes to that stuff. He's really good at what he does. He studies the sport, obviously being the son of who he's the son of. He studied the sport his whole life. He does a lot of coaching. Brandon basically personally coaches Noah Gragskin. He takes care of him, everything about him, racing, teaching him, how to be a race car driver and stuff like that. So that's believe it or not, that's his full-time job, is to be Noah's assistant basically, and his coach when it comes to racing and just personal appearance, carrying himself, how he carries himself. It's weird how things have changed out here, but that's his full-time, job. So he's always doing that. He doesn't get to race much. I think the first time I've seen him was probably when we showed back up at Loudon. He's just so busy in other divisions and taking care of Noah's stuff. We left Loudon, didn't really talk, and we showed back up 2 months later, and that's the first time he stepped back into a race car. So it's kind of hard. I was happy for him. It's kind of hard when you step out of something. It's just like no different if me and you're going to go play golf. If we play every day, we're going to get really good at it. When you don't do it a lot, first time you go back out, you draw a drink beer. So it's just but it was an all-in-all good race. It was great for John Visconti. I mean, he's from up north there in the Long Island, Staten Island, New Jersey area. So he's he ran SK Modifieds for a while, and he dabbled a little bit in the tour and just didn't have a lot of success. A lot of races and stuff like that. No cause of not spending money for sure, because he will do that. But he took a chance and got out of that division. And he doesn't live in the South. I keep the car basically at my shop, and we use my truck and trailer and everything. But he pours a ton of time in it and a ton of money, and that's it's kind of really good for him. That was his 5th race ever in the basically the K&N series, and the win. We were really close at Bristol this year and finished 4th or 3rd, somewhere around there, and killed the car at South Boston, which had to be totally reclipped and redone, and then finished top 5 at Thompson, top 5 at Loudon. So he's been close. And then within his 5th race of being an owner to win, that's pretty cool for him.
Now tell us a little bit about the motor you use. They're all using the spec engines in that division now, right?
Yeah, they use kind of like the Corvette LT1 motor, basically. It's basically an engine that was introduced by Robert Yates years ago as a spec engine. It started off as no different than anything else down here. Started off at 20 grand and a great idea, and now they're about 37 grand. They haven't changed parts, haven't gotten better, but they're gotten more expensive.
That's what I pay
at
UNC.
Same motor that Yeah, same motor that the Pinty series runs, and the same motor that the modified series runs. So I think they have different carburetors on them per series, but as far as the engine, oil, and system and intakes and stuff, they're all the same for all 3 series.
Now, do you get your motor from Yates, or do you get it from somebody else?
No, we get our motor from PME, which is a company down here that Mark Smith, he died about 2 years ago, but his company still keeps going with his son. He takes care of that stuff for me. I worked for Robert for years and know him very well before he's passed, but you don't have to get your motor from them. You do have to buy the parts from them, but you can basically have anybody assemble it as long as you keep to their spec parts.
Right. Promoter, is that Mark Smith? That he also owns TriStar Racing, right? The Cup car.
Yep, same person. Yes.
Okay.
Now, will you guys be heading to Dover by chance for the K&N race?
Yes, we are. You know, yesterday we come home yesterday and we get it out of the trailer and clean it up, and it smells like because there's beer everywhere. So we get that all cleaned up and get the seat cover out of it and get it all cleaned up, gear out of it, suspension out of it, rear end out of it. Valve springs have to be replaced. Valve lift keepers on top of it have to be replaced. He did a burnout and zinged the motor a couple times, so you don't want to take chances on that. But basically, overhaul it, do all the wheel bearings, stuff like that, and change all the suspension, the spring, get it ready to go run High Banks to Dover.
Nice. I'm maybe trying to head down there. I don't think I'd make it down in time on Friday for that race.
Yeah.
But
oh no, Bruce.
I think it goes off at 5:30 or something late.
I worked till 7 today, so
you're gonna have to get a better job.
Take the day off.
I need the health insurance.
And now, Bruce, me and Scott, we know your story. You know, we grew up with you racing at New Egypt and Wall, and then you went on to Flemington to run the modifieds. After that, how did you go from racing here to end up doing what you're doing now?
Well, like you said, growing up there and racing street stocks for years with you and your brother and your dad, just, you know, got into it, started racing modifieds, got kind of good at it, started winning some races, and I crashed really bad. I don't remember what year it was. I think it was 96 or 97. I crashed really bad at Evergreen. A lot of people don't notice, but I took down the damn catch fence at Evergreen, broke my back and a bunch of other things. And the following year, I couldn't race, you know, per doctor's order. So I wound up crew chief in Pete Britton that year. And lo and behold, we won the championship at Flemington that year. So I kind of figured out right then I'm probably might be better off working on them than I am driving them. And the people that I worked for, I worked down there at a place called Gateway Toyota, which has been there for years and still is. Worked there since a kid, and then I raced at night. But I knew if I wanted to stay in racing, you know, I couldn't just stay up there because I'd either want to race again or I'd go broke. So I had an opportunity with Sonny McCurdy, was a old friend of mine. He lived down here and was already, you know, he was driving trucks for Dale Earnhardt and everything. And he said, kid, you just need to come down here and try your luck down here. So I moved down in 98, I think it was, and was driving back and forth, still trying to run the modified up there for Dick Greenfield. And after 1 year of living down here, I said, well, this is where I need to be. And I just dug my feet in, worked my butt off to get where I am today after, you know, 21 years, I think it is.
What was your first job down south?
My first job was working for Butch Mock and Bob Rahilly, believe it or not. It was Ray Mock Racing, which was the Remington car that Rick Mass drove. It was a small team, only running part-time that year. I worked there basically sweeping floors and doing whatever, just trying to get, you know, around. And then what everybody used to do is try and move down here, work for Ray Abraham, because, you know, obviously I worked for them up there, and I dabbled at IROC a little bit. I just didn't want to move down here and be one of them guys that came down here and jumped on his coattails. So I just tried to do it on my own. And then from there, I wound up at Roush, and it just took off from there.
That's crazy. I mean, you never know exactly where it's going to take you, and every path seems to be a winding one. That's for damn sure. So, do you want to tell us more about that wreck with the taking the fence down?
No, I try not to talk about it anymore because the only good thing about it is we didn't take the seat home because I broke the seat. It was at Evergreen. I'm sure Scott remembers. I'm sure Timmy remembers it, but not the crash. But they remember the place because it was Armco battery with the damn telephone poles. And when I came down and went through the back of the car and got me the back of the seat, and I didn't even know it. I walked around for 3 months and always had back pain. I thought I was just getting old and worn out, but I went to the doctor and he said, "Man, well, you've been in a car accident." And I said, "No, I got a great driving record. I've never crashed anything." Not thinking it was a damn race car. So when I finally figured out what was wrong, it was, okay, you got to stop that for a while. So, but I do know there was a lot of pissed off fans because they took the catch fence down and they couldn't, finish the night off. So it was pissed off. I had to get out of there as fast as I could.
At first when you said you wrecked real bad, I thought of course you were going to say Flemington, because everybody that raced at Flemington, there was no such thing as an easy wreck at Flemington. When you wrecked there, you wrecked hard.
I had my fair licks there, but I loved that place, and I for some reason I just took to that place, and no matter what I drove up there, I felt really comfortable and had a lot of wins there. But I always liked going to Evergreen. I loved it as a kid. I remember going up there and watching your old man barbecue in the back of a van, when it was raining. He did. I opened up the door one day and I said, "Well, what's in the van?" And your dad was actually racing, and I think it was Pepe Wallace, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, it was
he was
Craig's
racing.
van. I remember that day.
I opened up the damn van, and there's the smoke rolling out of it because it was raining and your dad was barbecuing inside the van. But I just love that place. My sister lived in Hazleton with her kids, so it was something I always wanted to do, was just go race there.
Yeah, Evergreen was a cool place, and I remember going up there with my dad. And the best part about it was when you were a kid, you can get in the pits up there. But I never actually paid to get in. My dad would drop me off at that little wooden bridge down the street and make me walk up the river. Because when you walked up the river, you could just make a right and walk right into the pit. You passed it.
Yeah.
That's why
funny how we had that figured out.
That's why I didn't go to Evergreen, because I wasn't walking up the river.
It's funny how your dad had that figured out. My father was the same exact way. I remember going up there one time by myself. He said, "If that's what you want to do, big boy, go on up there and race." So I hooked his van to the trailer and drove the race car on it, got all the way up there. And for some reason, I came in the back way, and I was heading down this hill, and I looked, and the track looked like a mile underneath of me coming down the back way. And I said, "Oh." So I stopped. I'm like, I'm never going to make it down there. So I pulled over. My father was in the car behind, and he said, "What are you doing, big boy?" I said, "I can't get down there." And he goes, "Well, if you want to race, you will." So I had my buddy get in his car, go down there and get a tow truck. They came up and got me and pulled me all the way down the hill.
I remember a lot of people used to have to get pulled back up that hill too when they left, because their truck didn't have enough power to get up it.
When you got a whole van with a straight 6-cylinder in it and you ain't got no brakes, you don't want to go down or up.
I remember running the Frostbite Enduros there. I did 2 of them in the snow and ice, and I did the bridge the first time, and then the second time that I did not want to take that hill on the way out, because the roads were not in the best shape with that snow and ice all over them.
No, it's just a crazy place.
What track is this again?
Evergreen
was mountain for a while.
Okay, yeah, I gotcha. Ted Grove's not here, so who cares?
Yeah, let's not talk about it. Ted Grove bailed on us, so we're not going to talk.
Like the 4th time.
Bruce, I know you were a big street stock guy, and this past weekend everybody was like, out loud, like, what other division could they bring in here? I was thinking, would it be cool to have like a Racing Champion style street stock race there with those kind of cars?
That's the first thing. I'm sure you felt the same thing, but I don't know. It was not Thursday, but Friday morning when I woke up, getting to the track, the modifieds are already there, and the race, the rotors are running, and it's like 61 degrees out, and campfires. I could not believe the damn campers.
I
said to myself, "Oh man, this feels just like Pocono."
Yes, it did.
And I sat there and thought to myself, I said, "Man, if they didn't have this Pinty series here." Everybody was like, "Oh, they need to run super modified or super late models here, or late model stock cars." I'm like, screw that. They need to have a world championship, race championship, whatever you want to call it, street stocks again. Have the modifieds of street stocks, and then, of course, the K&N used to be the Busch North Series, so that would have been perfect.
Yeah, it was definitely the Race of Champions feel, and hopefully they have it again next year.
I think they will. I think I heard they ran out of food. I heard they ran out of some
T-shirts,
souvenirs and stuff. I've been up there racing my truck and haven't had that kind of a crowd for a damn truck race, so I don't think it was that bad.
Yeah, no, it was good. There was a lot of people from New Jersey there, too, so that was cool.
Yeah, I didn't get to see much. I stopped and talked to the Barneys as usual, and seen Kenny Woolley a little bit. I looked for you, but I couldn't find you.
I'm not hard to find.
Tim's part of the reason why they ran out of food up there.
No, I don't eat the food there.
I'm kind of sad that Jimmy Blewett didn't go up there and run. And some of the people still, Jamie was there and he's still struggling and trying, but I was kind of sad to see that Jimmy, wouldn't even try and go up there and run that deal. But
Jimmy actually ran a dirt modified for Jimmy Horton over at New Egypt that weekend. That's why he didn't go up there.
Gotcha.
They had a big Heroes Night at New Egypt, and it was pretty cool. They bought all the former asphalt modified drivers and current dirt modified drivers. Had a big autograph session, and it was definitely cool. Like Cisco and all them were there, and the Hortons, Jimmy Horton's father actually called Jimmy to drive one of the Horton family dirt modifieds there, so he went and did that.
That's cool. Well, I'll let him off the hook then.
He does. Jimmy does.
He was racing. He just wasn't up at Loudon.
Jimmy does plan on racing the last 2 tour races, Stafford and Thompson.
That's cool. It's just like you said, it definitely had the Race of Champions feel. The weather was exactly. I mean, they had a good crowd in there. It wasn't that bad. They had some good car counts. I wish the K&N car count was up over 22, 24. It was only 21, I think. So it was kind of weak. And the first time ever for the Penny Series to basically race in the United States was pretty cool. So I think all in all, they were very happy with it. I think everybody was kind of scared to see actually how it would go down at first. But I think once it's said and done and over with, a lot of the owners, NASCAR, I know was happy with it. I've sat in a meeting already with them this week about it. They were very happy about the outcome. So I guarantee you'll see it again next year.
Good. Did you get a chance to watch the modifieds?
I did not. I was in tech trying to get beer out of the carburetor and shocks off and gear out and wire harnesses out and take the seat out. We know you got something out, so didn't get a chance. And then we figured out we could make our plane. So I drove very carefully and very slowly to the airport to try and make it.
Did they give you a lobster?
So I didn't get a chance. No lobster. It was the Apple Barrel 125. So first thing they did was put 2 big, huge barrels of apples on top of our car. And of course, my driver got out, hit one of them, and I had 50 apples on the deck lid. And NASCAR was kind of looking at me like, that's not going to go through tech with apples on it. So we started eating them.
How close is the Pinty Series car to, say, like an East car? Is there any similarity between the two divisions?
No. The only similarity, believe it or not, is the motor. It's basically a late model chassis, offset late model chassis with kind of, it's got stock lowers on it. You can run coilovers, or you don't have to. The bodies are very wide and have a lot of downforce on them. So they're not really that close at all.
Bruce, I got one final question for you. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Shoot. That's all. You're good. All I was saying is the engine was basically the same. That's about it.
Sam's the party pooper. He's the one that keeps us in line here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam.
Your opinion on the ARCA and K&N merger for next year?
Well, is there even a merger? Because that wasn't announced. It was just announced that NASCAR bought ARCA. Do you think there is going to be a merger?
They haven't said it, but I'm probably 90% sure that there will be a merger. I have mixed feelings for it. There's certain things in ARCA because I have 2 of them cars in my shop that I take care of too. There's 2 of them. There's several things on them cars that are going to cost a lot of money to either go away with, or going to cost the K&N series a lot of money to buy. And there's also stuff on the K&N side that if they merge them, the ARCA guys are going to have to buy or go away with it. So either way, there's going to be some ownership loss, but both series are struggling. When you're only pulling Thompson, they only had 14 or 15 cars there. And you go to places like, I don't know, Salem, when they only have 15 ARCA cars. Obviously, there's a problem in both series. So for years, ARCA wanted to stand on their own. There was a bunch of tracks that ARCA went to that they don't like NASCAR. Don't bring NASCAR here. We have our ARCA. There's plenty of NASCAR tracks that say, don't bring ARCA here. We have our NASCAR. So now they'll merge them. I think there'll be some good tracks to go to. I think the car count will go up. I think it's great for K&N series to have live TV. They don't get that now. They're a week behind. ARCA gets at least 8 live events. So I think that'll help out. NASCAR is going to make it their baby. They're going to make it succeed no matter what, because they definitely want the public to know that they're in charge. So I think it'll be good. I think your K&N cars will basically be your mile and under. I think, this is me personally speaking to, I'm not sure that it's going to happen, but I believe your ARCA cars will be 1.5 miles and over. And I think both series will have the Ilmore motor and not the crate motor anymore. That's just
What
my own
about
personal
tires? Do you
opinion.
think they'll stick with the general tires, or will they switch to what you use in
No.
K&N?
I think they'll switch to Goodyear.
Okay.
That's always been a NASCAR deal, and I don't see NASCAR. We went through that about 15 years ago when they had the tire war, and it didn't work out very well for anybody. So I don't see another tire war happening.
Now, we also heard the reason why they're not doing next year's because of the tire contract, that, they can't get rid of that general tire contract yet, so they got to wait. Yeah, so they got to wait to 2020.
ARCA has to. Yeah, they have another year left on it, and it would cost a lot of money for them to just buy them out. So there's a lot of things to be worked out. There's a lot of there's meetings coming up with chassis, suspension, just all kinds of things that have to be worked out. Schedules, next year they'll still have their own schedules and their own racing and stuff, but I think you'll see an influx of rule changes that you're allowed to do next year. You don't have to do, but I think you're allowed to do. And anytime they come up with a rule, I'm here to tell you, if they say you're allowed to do it, you better do it, or you're not going to compete.
We just got one more technical question for you because you are a crew chief. We've been noticing when these guys wreck now and their driver's side up against the wall, it's very, very hard for them to get out of the car. It was a couple of weeks ago, the one guy couldn't even get out. They actually had to pull the car away from the wall so he can get out. Whatever happened to the roof hatch? Why'd they get away from that? We think that would be a good idea to still have the roof hatch so when you're up against the wall, you can climb out through the roof.
You can, and you're still allowed to have it in certain divisions. A lot of people don't have it. We found out, I'll just say Xfinity and Cup right now. They found out that the roof is a very huge sweet spot. Anything moving on the roof just deflects air, so you don't necessarily want that. You see everybody run them on a speedway. They're on the roof on a speedway. That's great. So I think what you see is a product of people spinning out. They get into the fence, and that fence gives now. It's it's softwall for a reason. So it gives and it conforms to the car. So when they do get up against it, it fits the car so damn good. And basically the fence is tilted back in towards the racetrack with a soft wall. It's about, if you were to look at it parallel, it's probably 8 inches in at the top than it is at the bottom. So it's built like a car. So when you get up against it, the top of that fence is almost in your window. So It's very hard to get out of it.
That's why we thought maybe if they made the roof hatch mandatory where everybody had it, so there's no advantage or disadvantage, it would just be a great safety thing.
Yep, I'm sure they've looked into that. I know that it's an ever-changing thing down here, rules and stuff like that. I'm sure it's been looked at. I know I've had them in speedway cars before for a reason, and it wasn't for the driver to get out. But they're they're there for your liking if you want them at speedways. Why they don't have them mandatory, could not answer that, and I don't know if that would be a fix.
I thought maybe they just got away with them when they went to the car of tomorrow because the cars were bigger inside, so they thought the drivers can get out easier. I don't know.
Yep.
I just think.
Well, this past weekend, I'm sure Timmy will tell you, during our race, at the very end of the race, there was a car that got spun around, basically helped backwards. It was the old style car with the old style body on it, and he got stuck up against the fence. Same exact thing. He couldn't do anything.
I got dumped.
They were yelling at him. Yeah, they were yelling at him to get out, and he couldn't. He was up against the fence. He couldn't go nowhere. So they basically had to pull it off the fence, and then he climbed right out of it.
That's what I mean. Sooner or later, one of these cars are going to be on fire, and that driver is going to be in trouble up against the wall like that. They got to do something,
Now there is most of these cars, other than the old style car like that was, most of these cars you can get out the right side of the car very easy. They just don't sometimes. The drivers won't do that. Same thing with a Cup car. They're so big inside, they can get out the right side. That's what them cords on the right side windows are for, is to pull that window out if you had to get out the right side. So they can get out the right side. They just choose not to.
Okay.
Because it's a little bit of work, especially if you're like me and you're a little chunky. You're not going to get out that window or over that window very easy.
If the car's on fire, you're going to get out of there. Trust me.
Damn right. I'm gonna be 120 pounds if the car's on fire.
So, I just wanted to find one thing we asked pretty much all of our guests. What is your favorite track food that you've come across out of all the tracks?
All the years you've gone to the racetrack. And where?
Tell you the truth, I'm still pretty partial to a fried Oreo at Flemington.
Okay, fried Oreo at Flemington.
Something about also famous for fried chicken, but I don't think I ever ate it there.
Flemington Fair, when they had to, I mean, it didn't matter what you brought to them. You could bring them an Oreo, a Snickers bar, a Twinkie. It didn't matter. They fry anything for you. They didn't care. So I had a fried Oreo one time, and it was just, maybe that's why size I am today. Who knows?
So we're going to wrap it up with you here, Bruce. No offense. However, you did mention the whole pre-tape thing. The Appleboro 125 will air via tape delay on Thursday, September 27th at 6 p.m. on NBCSN. As you mentioned, spoiler alert, Bruce's driver wins. However, you should still watch the race. And Bruce,
hell, I'm going to have to watch it now.
Yeah. Bruce, thank you again for coming on. We appreciate hearing one of the RPM podcasts. Go like us on Facebook and hit that show it to your friends.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Is there anybody you want to thank? Anybody you want to thank while you're on here?
I don't know. I guess I thank my wife for putting up with my ass for all these years for doing this crap. But I just Biscotti Motorsports, Chad Finley Motorsports, Cook Racing Technology, just everybody that. I mean, I've got 5 employees of my own that pour their guts out into it, and a lot of these guys down here or girls, I should say, because I do have a female worker for me too. A lot of these people, they have their own, they run a truck team, and that's all they have to worry about. My employees have to worry about 5 different divisions, 5 different rules, and 5 different races. It could be every single week we're running something different. So I stay on them, but I wouldn't be able to pass tech and have fast race cars if it wasn't for them for sure. So I really
out of all the divisions you do race, which division do you prefer?
It's kind of hard. I still love the truck series. I won a championship as a crew chief in the truck series. I still love it. They still come to me for advice. A lot of the officials know me, and they're like, hey, what do you think about this? So I'm kind of partial to that, but I really kind of like the ARCA and the K&N stuff because it's still where I grew up. It's still handheld templates, and there's still officials with common sense. And that's nothing to do with the new regime in NASCAR. There's some officials out there just don't get it. They don't have common sense, but they do know how to put a special template on a car or a special gadget, and that's what they're taught, but they don't know why they're putting it on the car.
I'm not a NASCAR official, Josh.
Yeah,
but he's an official. Our
yeah, sure.
Host Sam is a race official.
Not for long. Sam, where are you working? Was it the 9th?
I work at GoPro Motorplex. I work for World Karting Association. It's not a very impressive resume, Bruce. Not as impressive as yours.
Did you work there tonight? Did you work there tonight? Because
I did not.
Charity was there tonight.
They did not call me for tonight's event, but I will be there this weekend for their karting challenge.
Gotcha. Martin and Sherry's Racing for Cancer was there tonight. I know it was a pretty big deal. When I leave my shop and go by it, so when I came by it, I said, wow, it's a pretty big deal here tonight.
Yes. Yeah. So, well, we appreciate you coming on, Bruce. Hopefully you give us a listen. Hopefully we weren't that bad tonight.
All right. Hopefully them girls keep showing up in your dorm room here for you.
The 3-way. Good time.
Man.
All right. Thanks a lot, Bruce, and good luck down at Dover.
Right. Bruce, thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, Bruce.
All right, buddy.
Have a good one. Oh.
So lead us out, Sam.
I can't get the damn break. You're listening to the RPM podcast with apparently there's a bunch of ladies in my apartment building. Josh Matthews, Scott Riggleman, Tim Riggleman. I'm unfortunately Sam Ballard Jr. We'll see you on the other side where we talk all things motorsports here on the RPM podcast.
Got a question you want answered? Email us at racingpodcastnj@gmail.com.
Welcome back to RPM Podcast.
Man, that seems forever ago. Bryce, thank you, Bryce. Welcome back to the RPM podcast. We just had Bruce Cook on, veteran crew chief and winner this past weekend at the New Hampshire K&N Series race. And we're going to continue with the trend of winners because we have Kyle Tabasco in the RPM podcast studio.
Wait, is that Gary Larson's name for him?
No, that's a Buddy Slode nickname right
there.
Oh,
yeah.
Jay McDonald. Yeah, that was all over Facebook.
Bro. That's right. So, first off, Kyle, as a friend, congratulations.
Thank you.
As an official, it's about time.
Yeah.
Wait.
Good to see.
Wait. As an official?
Yeah, I've been watching Kyle
I don't know.
I
mean, I know the officials give high fives and handshakes here and there, but I mean,
I just check his underwear. That's all I do.
Arm restraints.
This is a racing show.
Yeah. Well, He's not lying.
Not the first segment. The first segment was not a racing show. Not
Yes.
a family-friendly racing show.
I beg to differ. I have 3 good things for what I learned today already. So I hope Scott. Are you
Word.
taking notes yet?
No, good thing you reminded me. I'll pay attention from now
I
on.
forgot about that. 'Cause I remember the first time I was on the show, and you guys asked me, Dan, what were 3 things you
I
learned?
know we
oh,
usually
man.
spring it on the
Yeah, but I'm prepared this time. I'm going to pay attention and take notes.
He wasn't paying attention to
That's
our
what
last
the law
show.
said.
Anyway,
Anyway, for those who were not at Wall Stadium Speedway, we have a packed track night this past weekend. There were a bunch of races. I'm gonna go over the results, Kyle, and then you can brag about yourself for as long as you want.
wait. There's one thing we have to brag about, no matter what. How many factory stocks were there?
29.
29 factory stocks. Did all of them make the feature, Scott?
They started them all. Let's go racing, boys.
Woohoo!
All right,
That is the way to do it.
I have questions, but let me get through this first. Sportsman feature winner, Jonathan LeRae. I didn't think he was coming back. But anyway, that's besides the point. First factory stock feature goes to Johnny Carpenter. Second goes to Tim Magic. 4-cylinder stock, 4 cylinders was Jeff. Good to see Jeff win his the 4 cylinders.
Jeff who?
Demolition Derby.
Jeff
Oh,
Roche.
Roche, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you. TQ winner, Kyle. He's in the Kyle Tabasco.
Tabasco.
He's in the,
Yeah, screw that
Congrats,
Kyle
Kyle.
Cisco guy. We got Kyle Taraska.
Hey, I like Kyle
Tabasco.
Cisco. And then Demolition Derby winner was Joey Hellbent. So pack the track tonight. Now, my question begins. They really did take all 29 factory stocks, huh?
Yes.
Wow.
I started. I want to say it was probably like my 3rd race ever in a factory stock. It was a Turkey Derby, 2011, I want to say, and we started 36 factory stocks. Dude,
Right.
I went to the back on purpose. It was my 3rd freaking race, and I was coming off of turn 2, and the lights are turning green because
That's insane.
The funny thing is, I'm partially the reason why they had to start all 29 factory stocks. I walked up there and Alan's like, "There's no way we're only starting 24." I said, "Alan, you can't send 5 guys home. Let's everybody race." You know. He says, we can't put 29 cars on that racetrack. I said, Alan, you put 28 modifieds on for the Cliff Krause race. He's like, oh, yeah, that's right. So they ended up starting them all. So.
And the factories tend to run a little bit better than
Right.
than the open wheel guys anyhow.
And I tell you what,
No
it
offense.
it really went fine for having all those cars out on the track. I mean, it really didn't feel much different to me where I was at.
Like an eternity
It was
sitting on
fun
the grid.
battling, and there was times you caught groups of lap cars, but like you said, it's factory stocks. Let's go racing. Who cares? You know, the only complaint I have is when we have 29 cars, start them all, but give us a few more laps and make it a 30 lap or make it a 35 lap or let's race. You know.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I'll run a couple extra laps.
That's what we did on Saturday.
Let 'em race.
We ran 2 extras, so
Yeah.
for Greg. So, but I was kind of like when they announced obviously Greg Hodnett losing his life on Thursday, and we did a lot to honor him with our club. We had ribbons on the car, and then we ran to 2 extra laps. And I thought it was really cool that we ran to 2 extra laps. But when we announced that in the drivers' meeting, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, because I knew going in, I was telling everybody, if I was ever going to win one of these races, I knew Saturday was like the day where I had my best opportunity. I finally had the handicap. We had a fast car, made some adjustments, and I'm thinking to myself, with my luck, I'm going to lead lap 25, and something's going to happen on lap 26, and then someone else is going to win on lap 27. But thankfully, it didn't turn out that way. But I was definitely on my mind in the driver's meeting.
But I bet you when you saw 2 to go, you're like, man, if this race should be over right now, I should be the winner.
That thought never crossed my mind. I never look up at the score tower or anything like that when I'm racing. Under
Not
caution,
while
I
it's
will.
green. Yeah, under yellow.
Caution
Yeah.
I will, but like under green, I'm never looking up there. All I remember the flagman giving me 5 to go. I remember looking over to see that, and then the next thing I saw was like the white flag. So I didn't even know like when I was on 25, 26 or whatever. I was digging.
That wasn't the final lap. He was giving up. That was that white flag.
Yeah. I know.
Actually, speaking of Greg Hodnett, something we failed to mention earlier in the show, trying to find the proper place to mention it. Lost his life tragically in a sprint car incident last weekend. Now I do want to say Christopher Bell in the Xfinity race during the victory lane interview, or was it on the
track?
Yeah, on the track right after we won. Mentioned Greg Hodnett, and I mean, I think that was really cool. So much respect. I mean, to see, when you talk about like, the top 3 series and all that, these guys, not losing track of where they came from and all that.
Remembering their roots, absolutely.
Yeah. And I mean, that meant a lot. And for him to say that, especially during the television interview, I think that was a lot of class.
Yeah.
And he has his priorities in the right spot. So I think that was just really a great thing to mention. I mean, out of a tragic incident. So. That's it. But you guys did run the extra 2 laps in his honor.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are basically asphalt sprint cars.
Yeah.
It's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. And then, a lot of our guys are based out of Pennsylvania, and obviously Greg's, relationship and, being a part of the PA posse. A lot of us, including myself, we looked up to him. That was one of the names. I mean, I didn't see him race much in PA often, but like, whenever he'd come out to New Egypt and everything, especially for the World of Outlaws show, and that was always one of the names that you look for, that you look forward to competing. And he was definitely a guy that I looked up to as a kid, and it definitely this one hurt a little bit more, and I know it affected a lot of guys more personally. Not to take away, obviously, from any type of tragedy like that in racing is bad, and it's going to affect you a certain way. But I think this one stung a little bit more, and it hit our community in the ATQMA a little bit harder. Than what we would have liked. But we did our best to honor him. I felt like we did a good job. We also did a missing man formation. We left the pole position open for him on a pace lap during our wave lap. So obviously thoughts and prayers with his family and Sherry and everybody, and, obviously his fans and this entire sprint car community, and hopefully, better days ahead for them, for sure, hopefully.
I certainly hope so. And honestly, it's not all that far removed from the date of losing Ted Christopher.
Yeah,
last
almost
year.
to the year. Yeah, just about.
So I mean, it's been somber all the way around, I think. So now that I brought the room down,
so
we'll bring
as
it back
far
up.
as it is to transition from a subject like that, Kyle, I just want to say thank you for kicking Joey Bailey's ass for me.
Yeah, man.
I know I texted you that. Joey has been on the show multiple times. As you know, he's the one that makes fun of my matching poster and bedspread.
Yep.
Great guy nonetheless, but I'm really glad to see you kick his ass. Joey, better luck next time.
There is, I mean, we're a very tight-knit community in the ATQMRA, but definitely me and Joey are probably, when it comes from actually being friends away from the racetrack, me and him probably have he's definitely turned into one of my best friends over the last year.
Has he taken you out on his boat to go fishing?
No, not yet. He's got a boat. Joey, what the hell, man?
It's not much of a boat. I mean, he calls it a boat, but
okay, well, whatever. It's, I mean, hopefully he doesn't offer to take me out in December.
It's more like an
an
aluminum raft.
Okay, well, whatever. It's more than what I got. So, but yeah, he's definitely turned into one of my best friends off the track, and him and I got a really good relationship. And he owes me a beer, that's for sure. I'm not going to forget that. He offered Saturday night, actually, after the race, but I was already going out with some friends, and it was too far away for him.
But not him. Yeah.
But, well, no, he was invited, but, we were over in Asbury Park, and he's over in Monroe, and it was just I'm already home, going back to school. So I'm all right.
Monroe sucks.
I'll see you next week. So, but, we if there was anyone else that I could have went wheel to wheel with, he was definitely the guy I wanted to. I think I shocked him. I shocked the entire grandstand, including myself, when I crossed him over like that off of 4. I don't know how I did that. It was all instinct, and but definitely we went. I mean, hell, we were side by side for 2 laps, consecutively after that restart. So people that are saying that we can't put on a good show on the bottom or complaining about the wings or this, that, and I think we proved them all wrong Saturday night. We put on one of the, in my opinion, I might be biased, but definitely the best race of the year.
So. Right.
So I wanted to ask you something, Kyle, in regard to the wings. Now that, I mean, obviously you might be a little biased because you won with the wing on the lower track. Is the feelings coming around with you guys with the wing being on the bottom of on the little track there?
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I mean, I didn't have a problem with the cars without the wings. I definitely thought from a driver's standpoint, they definitely dance around more without the wings on them. So, so from a driver, I don't mind that. but I also like having the wings. I think the wings, it's definitely a safety initiative. Just, obviously giving the cars more downforce, making them a little bit, not so much easier to drive, but just putting it, as I mentioned in my post-race interview, just more in the driver's hands where we could kind of really get up on the wheel and have more control. And I think that translates to putting a better show on for everybody.
And the little bit of extra cushion you get if you were to roll it.
And I think, and that's the most important thing. I mean, the first time I was down there, we talked about it how many times, the first time I was ever down there in a TQ, and I got on my side, and I went tumbling 3-4 times down the front stretch. So, remember, even though I'm a winner, I'm still the only driver to ever wreck on the or drive on the bottom and wreck on the top on the same lap. So, so I like the wings. I think, Buddy Slode and everybody a part of that on the board during the off season, I think they made the right decision going with them. We don't have a rules package announced for Turkey Derby yet, so I don't want to speculate anything. I know I gotta say common sense is going to say we're going to run the wings on there because, you can't argue. We had now 4 features and 8 heat races, and whatever all those laps combined to, I'm not doing the math right now, we had 1 caution. So, you know what I mean? So something, and compared to last year, we couldn't even get off the ground in Turkey Derby. We must have had about, 8 or 9 cautions in a 25-lap race. So I got to imagine we're going to run the wings. I'm sure that's the direction the club wants to move in, but obviously we have to talk to Diane and everything.
Okay.
But
I would assume that they would probably want to run the wings. The only question would be, are there guys out there that run specifically like the indoor shows and they don't even own a wing?
Yeah, I'm sure there's – look, I'm sure the wings have hurt the car counts a little bit this year. That's the only – it's a shame because this has been the most competitive year in ATQMRA history. We have 8 different winners in 11 races.
What's the cost of the wing?
Off the top of my head, I don't know, but we're spending money on everything else. If the guys really want to race,
that's my point.
Yeah, just buy a wing. Obviously,
flatten out an old garbage can or something like that. And
and guys got them, and I'm sure the wings they keep some guys away, but at the same time, I think it's also helped bring some other guys in. I don't know. I love the wings. I don't have a problem with them. I think. Even just from a fan's perspective, I was talking about with my friend, I think the cars just look they just look so much more badass with the wings on them.
Yeah, that is true.
But just from a – go ahead, Sam.
You know what makes it even better is that you have that fancy new paint scheme of yours with that nice big old wing on it, all stickered up.
Yeah, how about
with
that?
Berkeley College on it. It was a perfection. Though I'm still waiting on my Chick-fil-A. It was great to see Berkeley College in Victory Lane with you, Kyle, in all seriousness.
Yeah, definitely. I cannot thank everybody at Berkeley College enough. I love my school for sure. That was a process that started back in January, Atlantic City weekend. Like that Thursday night before, I met with my campus COO, Mike Russo, and he was actually in attendance. Well, there was a bunch of people in attendance, actually, which made it even more special, the win. But Mike Russo and his son Nick were in attendance, and after the race, they actually came over, and I got a Victory Lane photo with him and Nick.
Wow.
He's like 8-year-old son, and he was like, I got him holding the steering wheel up and everything. We got him a little hero card and all that, so he was really excited about that. Mike's over the moon. Hell, I saw him. I went to his office Monday this week, and I brought the trophy in to show all the faculty and everything. This thing's been going like on little victory tours. I strapped this thing into the car seat like a.
I like the Miss Hoosier sash thing going on.
Hey man, I'm Hoosiered out here. I got my trophy. Thank you, Bob, at Racing with Jesus Ministry for supplying those for the TQ Club. But man, this thing, I strapped this in like to my front seat. It goes in like a little passenger. It goes where I go. So I'm hanging on that for a long time.
It reminds me of the Stanley Cup when the hockey players win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I can't drink out of this, but maybe we could figure out something. I don't know. But
I'll tape
there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah. But
can you tell us a little bit? Can you tell us a little bit about the car you race? Who built the chassis? Who does the engines? How old of a chassis is it? Or how new of a chassis is it? When Joey Payne was on with us, he was telling us his car was very, very old. Is your car a newer piece, or is your
I don't know. I don't know the exact age on it, but I know my car's pretty old too.
He ground off the VIN number as soon as he got it.
Yeah. But I race for Spitfire Racing. I remember the first time, when we announced the whole partnership thing with our series and the podcast, and I was on beginning of the season. I didn't officially have a ride at that time. I was with another team, and I lost my ride, and then thankfully, Colin Martin stepped up, and he, as I mentioned Saturday night, the opportunity of a lifetime, and I'm forever grateful for him. And I drive Spitfire chassis. BJ McDonald, he's definitely one of the masterminds behind what we're racing, and he built some awesome race cars. Definitely the best I've ever sat in. It's a winning race car. We got 2 wins this year, each with one of our drivers, myself this weekend, and Buddy Slode won at Waterford up beginning of the year. But yeah, man, I don't know what it is. It's the motors, the chassis, or whatever it is. But it's just that car is just.
It's always the driver. It's the driver that wins the race.
Man, I know. That. Yeah, I know. I had to put it all together to drive it, but I can't do it without.
The spotter, right, Tim?
Well, we don't have spotters, so it definitely wasn't the spotter this week. But I can't do it without having a good piece either. And this was I was trying to do the math. This is only like the 11th race I've ever ran in my life, I think, on Saturday, and I won. And that tells you, and I'm not saying because then you're going to get in a debate racing's more about car and driver and everything else. I still had to drive it, but that Spitfire car, if you're going to go race in the AT Kilometer today, you need to go get in contact with Colin Martin and buy yourself a Spitfire, because those things are awesome. So,
do you guys remember that old? It used to be. It was a commercial. They played it during all the old NASCAR races. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, and it would be. It was an argument of different drivers and people, famous guys, arguing which was more important, the driver or the engine.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, one of the last things they said was the engine crosses the line first, and then Mario Andretti pops up, not an Indycar.
Yeah.
So.
But yeah, man. Obviously the car's got it. It's a full package, just like anything else. Racing's a team sport, and I'm not there without any of my guys. John Smith, he was there. Saturday, he's my co-crew chief, him and Mike Glazier. Mike Glazier does a lot of behind-the-scenes work for me. Unfortunately, Mike wasn't there. He was in the hospital, so Mike, definitely please get better. I know he is. I know the win made him feel a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
At least that's what he told me anyway. So, I am absolutely, on top of all the other names I already mentioned, I am nothing without any of these guys. I said it on Saturday. Winning this race, this is all I've ever wanted to do was race, and then actually be able to be competitive and then win. This is a dream come true. This is like the ultimate for me, this little trophy right here. So, and I'm nothing without those guys. And, between building the setups and, applying all that, and then just, coaching me, and just, like I said, it was only my 10th, 11th race I ran in my life. So, just learning and adapting and feeding off those guys, it's a total package.
How did you get involved in racing?
So I actually started driving with the Green Flag Driving Experience with Gary Conkling. So he's really the reason why that got me started. And I got to know them. So at the time I was working at the Somerset Patriots up by me, and they had a NASCAR night, and one of the giveaways was for the Green Flag Driving Experience. So the guy that was running, they had a Twitter contest or whatever, and it was tell me why you deserve this, 5. It was for free 5 laps or something in TQ, right? So, and it was this whole Twitter contest about how, tell us why you deserve it. But it wasn't for people who were employees or anything like that, right? So thankfully, the guy that was running the social media account, he didn't know who I was, and I'm just I'm just going to do it. You know what I mean? I was working part-time or whatever, and I love the service at Patriots, but I kind of put my job, it was my summer job at the time. I was 18, 19, but
well, that's right off of 287.
Yeah, right off 287.
13. Yeah, Vernon McLaughlin took his car to that show and stuff. I remember a couple of factory
stops.
Yeah, and
we had a lot of show cars there. I remember Brian Vickers was there a couple of times. So
that's who it was.
Vernon McLaughlin used to take his factory stuff to the Somerset baseball stadium up there.
So they haven't done it in a couple of years, but anyway, so I won the Twitter contest, and I went to my boss on the side. I'm just hey, just so you know, I did this, and I'm sorry, but this could be a big thing for me. Because all these other guys, they were responding on the Twitter thing. They're oh, I want to go fast. I want to turn left. I'm just shut the hell up, So and I must have put a 5 tweet thing together about how this is all I ever wanted to do, and one thing could lead to another. And then sure enough, here we are, right? So first time I ever really sat behind the wheel of a race car was with Green Flag. This was spring of 2014. I did it twice. And I just talked to Gary, and I said, hey, I really want to do this. What do I need to do or whatever? So I started working more with him. I went up to his shop. I started to learn. He got me in contact with my former team owner, who I used to drive for up until this year. And then I ran with him, for a year and a half. And then, here I am with Spitfire now. So it's kind of like, I tell people all the time, like, it's a friggin' miracle that I even got to actually, like, race competitively. Like, people don't have stories like I do. Like, everyone has their own unique deal, but mine is definitely unique compared to
I mean, a lot of us, like me and Tim, our family was always in racing. A lot of people's Sam's family's in the demolition derby's been in the racing. That's how he got into racing. It's rare for somebody like you just to come in that doesn't have a family involved in racing, and you just bring yourself into it.
Yeah, I mean, my dad. I mean, I grew up with the whole NASCAR scene. I know in the local short track ranks that kind of people hear NASCAR and they're just like, but I mean
that kind of like similar, like my dad would always watch the races, and that's how I got interested in it, because that's what I grew up watching. And then, come to find something nearby,
right?
Like, wait, I want to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up going to Dover and Pocono and everything. Used to go to Nazareth for the Busch races and everything, and that was my lifestyle when I was 7, 8, 9 years old. It was the thing I looked forward to the most was whenever the next NASCAR weekend was, to go with my dad and his friends or my friends or whoever, and that's what got me into the sport. And even still to this day, like sitting in the grandstands watching a race and seeing these guys go around, that's more badass to me than watching a guy throw a football or shoot a basket or something like that.
Duh.
So
we're
not
going to start this conversation.
I got that itch at such a young age, and I still love it as a spectator as well. But now to have the opportunity to actually do it, there's nothing that can compare to actually sitting behind the wheel of a race car and doing it, and then actually finding some success in it. It's just like, it's so remarkable.
So Sam's looking up for something for me real quick. Now. Have you seen anything about that petition to have them laser scan Nazareth?
I did, but man, they got they dug holes in that track and everything. What are we gonna have, like a rallycross iRacing track or something?
All right. So you scan it and then you fill the little gap. I mean, it's like a foot wide or something. I'm sure you can work around that.
I mean, I would do it.
What am I doing here, Josh?
There was a petition to have Nazareth scanned for iRacing or something.
Yeah, to save Nazareth before they turn it into like homes or whatever they're gonna do with it.
Yeah.
All right. What do you want to do about it?
I just want to know how many signatures it's up to.
They're getting close to 6,000. It looks like.
Oh wow! I was hoping they'd be higher than that. It's not bad, but I'd like to see it higher than that.
How many do they need?
I've never seen a petition work though. They usually have 6,000 signatures on a petition. They bring it to the people that are against it, and they're like, "Yeah, who cares?"
Yeah,
yeah. Well, I mean, the online ones don't have as much force as like an actual.
But still,
signature.
It's cool to actually
people
do
want to see it.
Yeah, they want to see it.
That can't be that big of a deal. What do they take? Did they take a car out there and drive it around a couple times or something?
They set up iRacing. They set up like when you're like at a construction site and like they take the pictures or whatever. They pretty much have like machines or cameras or whatever like that, and they literally just scan everything to a T.
It's not that big a deal though. Right?
I don't work for iRacing.
But from my knowledge, it's very.
It's probably a lot of
very expensive.
Yeah, it's a lot of data and processing.
I watch a lot of like treasure hunting shows and stuff, and they put that thing in the middle and it does the same thing. It spins around, and then it shows you where the building was.
Right. Well, it's one thing to actually like to retrieve the data, but then you actually have to go back into the computer and you got to do all the artwork.
Well, I think
the
petition really is just going to apply to them getting out there and getting the measurements,
right?
Which would be a day or two probably, and then all the expense will be when they go back in, to be like, oh well, now I have 30 gajillion data points. What the hell am I going to do with it?
So Josh, what's the petition for? Whether the people that own the property won't let them do it?
I don't know if they approached anybody or not, but they're trying to get permission or get them or sway them into allowing it, I guess, so that way it can be done before anything deteriorates any further.
Just go do it. Ain't nobody looking at that racetrack.
Sneak in at night,
Yeah, just do it.
Paint a big Roman numeral 3 on the back stretch or something.
Well, we have a lot to talk about. Tim, you're my next radar here. You were at Loudon just like Bruce was, unlike the rest of us. How'd your weekend go in the modified race? And from what I've seen, it was a pretty spectacular finish.
It was. It was a good race. Like Bruce said before, the there was more people there than everybody expected. I expected to go there and it be a ghost town. And there was, like Bruce said, we pulled in and I couldn't believe how many campers were there. I mean, no comparison to a cup race there, but it had the good old Race of Champions feel, like at Flemington and Pocono, and go to Nazareth. There was always campers there, and we didn't have anything to do on Thursday. We were Friday and Saturday. We practiced Friday, but our something was wrong with the motor, so we didn't know it at first.
Well, hang on.
I just lost me.
No, you're back.
Yeah,
I'm having some type of board issue. Like we're good now, but I have no idea what that was.
Our motor was starting to break, and we didn't realize it at the time, and we were trying to calculate fuel. That was one of our most concerns because it was a 250-lap race, and besides the Thompson 300 at Thompson, which they don't do anymore, it was the longest distance race ever, which probably mile-wise, it probably is the longest one. And
well, how many laps do you? I mean, I know you're trying to figure it out, but would you say how many laps can you get?
We were doing like 10 laps and coming in and measuring the fuel, and
okay,
they had like the crew chief. I'm not a crew chief. I don't know how they figure it out from there.
Right. So I mean, but based on, I mean, are they required to run all the same size fuel cell, or are you allowed?
Yeah.
Okay. So what would you
I
say?
think it's 22 gallons.
22 gallons. How far do you think that would get an average, roughly? I mean, I don't need your lap. Down
No, they never told me on the radio.
okay.
That's not my department. I could care less how many laps we go.
I have like an 8-gallon cell in my car, and I think I can just about make 100 laps. If
Yeah, but they're on a mile of track up there, and you
Yeah.
figure they're only getting probably about 5 miles to the gallon, so you got to figure it that way. you
Yeah.
know?
Okay. No, I wasn't sure how it would shake down for people that aren't as
So about halfway through the practice, my driver's like, "There's something wrong with the motor." So they brought in, and Billy the kid was there, and he builds our motors, and they changed the fuel pump, and it seemed to make it better. So they went out and they did the same thing, and then it blew up in time trials. So we had to start in the rear, and we had a pretty good day, but with the fuel mileage taking it off the bad motor, we actually put it a little earlier than we should have. So we went a lap down under green. And then we didn't get a caution when we needed it. We had to change some tires. We came in, changed the tires, went 2 laps down, and then like 5 laps later, the yellow came out. So we were chasing 2 laps down. But at the end of the day, he finished third coming across the line at the end. We had a good car, just didn't have the track position.
Right.
The race up front was really good. I guess Justin's been on the show. He was leading. It's like anything else. It's like Daytona or Talladega. Do you want to be in first or do you want to be in second? Because we used the draft there.
Yeah, that was a wild finish.
Yeah, and Justin put the block on there, and Ryan Priest didn't. He sent it in there, and they came together, and then they ended up wrecking, and Chase Dowling won.
They had a little Twitter war.
Yeah.
Tim, what happened in the pits after that? Were the two teams going at each other after that wreck, or was everybody professional about it?
I heard there was a little commenting after the race. I didn't see it, so I really don't know. But yeah, by the time I'd gotten in there, Ryan Priest had a line of kids waiting to get their selfies with him. So it wasn't.
Is that the new thing at the racetrack? People don't want autographs now. Now they want selfies, right?
Yeah. Well, at Loudon, it was like all access.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I think for $10 more, you can get in the pits or something like that, right?
They were letting them park in the pits, and they had a fair in the infield. With a
Oh,
Ferris
that's awesome.
wheel. Yeah, it was it was a really good show.
So Tim, did you go on the Ferris wheel?
No, I'm good on the Ferris wheel. That was a little further down towards turn 1. I wasn't walking down there. I didn't even walk over to the garage behind me to find Bruce Cook, let alone walk down to the Ferris wheel.
Scott, would you take the time to go on the Ferris wheel?
I love Ferris wheels. I'm sure I'd be on it.
You're talking about a guy that goes to chase Mickey Mouse every 2 weekends of the year.
What is
So, talk about Ryan Priest and getting in that accident. He's been on a bad streak with the modifieds. I mean, he wrecked a ton at Oswego, and then I'm assuming that's why he wasn't in the Partridge car at New Hampshire. Do you know why he was driving a 77 and not a 6 car, Tim?
I was, not to speak for Eddie, but I was told that Eddie didn't want to have to start in the back. He wanted to qualify and run up front, like where they started. But and then Ryan drives Putnam's car all the time too. Down south,
Right.
and Putnam's car did say TS Hall was on the back of it, so Eddie had something to do with it.
Right.
No,
That's too bad. Wrecks for Ryan in a row. I mean, he wrecked real bad at Oswego, and then he had a pretty bad wreck at New Hampshire.
He wrecked bad in, I remember Speed Weeks, too. I was down in New Smyrna.
Oh, yeah,
Bronson.
Yeah, Bronson.
Yeah, he, like, went over the wall or something like that.
Yeah, he's had a
yeah,
tough...
F that guy. That's where it started.
Yeah.
That's where it started. F that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fake tweet from Elliott Sadler saying heard Priest wrecked. F that guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go ahead, Sam. Move the show along. We know you got stuff to do tonight.
Chase Allen ended up winning the race. I believe Chase tried to race the Turkey Derby. Was it 2 years ago? Last year? I could be wrong.
It wasn't a factory
it was
stock. I wasn't paying attention.
No, sure. With that, it was a pretty spectacular finish with Ryan Preece and Justin Bonsignor, who was on the show, 2-3 weeks ago?
More like a month and a half ago. It was more than 3 weeks.
Okay, it might have been. Where's the time gone?
Yeah.
Anyway, Tim, I read. Well, I believe Ryan Preece finished 5th. I've been trying to find the results. Oh, it's right in front of me right here. You guys finished 9th?
Yeah,
Tim?
we were 2 laps down.
2 laps down. And is that because of a pit call that there was only a few cars on the lead lap?
Didn't I just go through this?
Yeah, you did. It was.
We went 1 lap down for pitting for fuel, and then the yellow came out, and then another one for pit.
I think he was talking for the majority.
Majority of the field. I understand why you guys.
To tell you the truth, like I said before, this was our first big long distance race like this.
Right.
Everybody was. Like, there was times when my driver was like, who's in the lead? I'm like, I don't know who's in the lead. Like, everybody was pitting at all different times, different strategies, and, stuff like that. So it was a learning curve for all of us, to do that. I've never done anything like that. I mean, not that I didn't do anything wrong on my end, but the information wasn't coming quick enough. Even NASCAR timing and scoring, when we asked the NASCAR officials, it would take them a couple minutes to a couple seconds to get your answer. So it was slow all the way around. So
gotcha.
It was hard.
So Tim, did you like the distance of the race?
I loved it. I didn't want to go do it before, and now I can't wait to go back.
So you don't think it needs to be adjusted at all? You think that 250 laps is perfect?
It went fine. I mean, everybody thought the motors were going to blow up, the tires were going to fall off, and I don't think anybody blew a motor.
Did you see?
Except you.
Well, that was in practice.
not to get off subject,
Jeez,
but like
gosh.
being tough on equipment. Do you guys see like the Cars Tour? They're gonna like run a road course or something at like Old Dominion or something.
Yeah,
no, I didn't.
Did you guys read that?
They announced that today at Old Dominion Speedway. The Cars Tour is going to run the late models
they're
on
gonna
the
run the
road
late
course. I
models
think
on
that's
the road
awesome.
course.
Cool.
Until they all break their transmissions, but
Well, I mean, because everybody's talking about the Roval coming up this weekend, and Sam's not going to be there because he's a jerk. But then I saw another thing going around. It wasn't exactly a poll, but like, who wants to see the Cup cars run?
at Daytona.
Daytona.
Oh, I was a hard no. I mean, I was a hard no on the Roval.
I agree with you on the Roval, but not on Daytona. Go ahead, Sam.
Sam, you've lost all control.
Go ahead, Sam.
I did. It's okay. I'm going to join in for it, and we'll see whatever it goes. If we talk about national racing or whatever, my Twitter updated with a Kyle Tabasco tweet right here on my Twitter page, and it said no, and it was a retweet, and I was like, what the hell is this guy talking about? I just came off a huge win at Wall Stadium Speedway. Why the hell is he knowing on Twitter? And then I saw it, and I want to say retweet. I agree with you because the last thing we need,
race director.
The last thing we need in racing is a road course Pepsi 400. That's all I'm saying, or
Yeah.
Coca-Cola 400 or whatever they call it nowadays.
That's
So,
this whole road
Anyway,
course.
I think it'd be better than the Roval.
I hope this Roval doesn't come bad. I mean, Pocono's also talking about making one of their races a Roval.
It would
type
probably
road
help
course
IndyCar.
racing.
Yeah.
It might help IndyCar, but I hope these tracks don't copycat it and start doing
Everyone's
that.
going to get excited about the Roval because it's going to be a crap show, and guys are going to be wrecking all over the place, and it's going to be great TV. And then if it rains, they'll be like, "Oh my God, it's the greatest race ever."
Rain would help it.
But I don't like it. Go ahead, Sam.
Before we get into this, Christopher Bell won the Xfinity race at Richmond, and Kyle Busch won again, and they swept it 2 weeks in both Richmond races in a row. That's all I want to say. We can continue bashing the Roval.
Hey, wait! You forgot because Redneck Jesus was back.
Dale should have won that race.
He ran good, and he ran well.
I was pumped.
He did. He did. And
did.
honestly, I will say it was really cool to see how happy he was after the race.
Yes,
I do have a point. Go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Tim. I was like, Dale Jr. gave a great explanation of that whole Xfinity race Sunday before the race. Great job.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed listening to his feedback on the.
No,
on the
I think
telly.
he's fun to listen to. I, it's just one of those things that I don't agree with all the hype about him, but I do think he's a decent person, and you could see he truly loves the sport and loves being in the car.
I'm just glad he was competitive.
But do you guys realize why he ran that one race? Hellman's offered to sponsor 10 races if Dale would run one. So he had to run one race to get Hellman's to sponsor his team.
Smart guy.
Business.
He's a smart guy.
Condiment sponsors are cool.
Here's my point. Here's my point. The Scott just said that, right? Kyle Busch races an Xfinity race and all hell breaks loose. He shouldn't be doing it. He shouldn't be doing it. He's the greatest driver. He shouldn't be doing it. But he said in his interviews, I have to do that to sell the sponsorship.
Right.
Redneck Jesus does it, and everybody's like, yay, there's a cup driver champion in the field.
Well, he ain't a cup driver no more.
He's not a champion. Not a champion.
But still, he's taking people's positions away.
Oh, Tim's getting pissed.
Yeah, I am getting
But
pissed.
Dale Jr. didn't win, and I honestly think that's the reason why he didn't win. I think he could have won that race, and I think he just didn't win it.
Sandbagged it?
I think I think the argument is Kyle Busch has won a Cup Series championship, and Dale Jr. has not.
The only thing that bothers me with the whole we're really going on. His head's gonna blow up.
He's okay.
The thing that bothers me with the Kyle Busch thing is everyone doing like the whole 200 wins thing and with Petty and all that. Like I'd be more impressed if he had most of his wins in Cup. I mean, he's got 50 Cup wins, which is that's an outstanding mark right there.
They said it was like 1 in every 10 or something.
Yeah, I mean, Kyle Busch is definitely, when it comes to raw talent, he's one of the best of our time. There's no question with that. But I just think, his wins or his total NASCAR win would mean more at the end if most of his wins were more in Cup and not in the lower ranks. And at the end of the day, you could whether I'm not a Kyle Busch fan, but whether you could dispute it.
He's got plenty of wins in the Cup, so
I just said that. I mean, he's got 50.
Where's he at? Like at 50? Where does 50 put you in the all-time top 10?
I think Junior Johnson had 50.
Can you find that out, Sam?
I'm like the NASCAR historian,
Yes,
if I
give me a
remember.
second.
So confirm that for me.
Y'all ain't waiting on me. Keep talking.
Yeah, I don't know. But I don't know. What are we talking about?
Anyway,
you talked yourself right out of the conversation.
Oh, speaking of Redneck Jesus, it was the last race that he will get to run. Well, last NASCAR race that he will be running.
No, he actually has one more race.
No. I wasn't done, Scott. With Elliott Sadler.
Who cares?
I don't know, but they seem like they're all buddy. I don't know. But that was.
They're talking about. Did you see they're talking about doing late model races together? Elliott's going to be the crew chief for Dale Jr., and then Dale Jr. is going to be the crew chief for Elliott Sadler, and they're going to do some late model racing next year.
I believe it. Go have some fun. I think Tony Stewart and as much as I don't like Kyle Larson, I think I think it's a good thing that they're out there and running in.
I think Sam's about to say something to prove me right. I think
11th all time on the win list.
That's what I mean.
I was going to say that too. Is he tied with? Is he tied with Junior Johnson?
He's tied with Junior Johnson.
That's the funniest name in race.
And Ned Jarrett.
And
then if he wins one more, where does that put him?
Ahead of those two.
Still 11th. He has to win 4 more to be tied with Lee Petty, 1 more to tie with Rusty Wallace, and then a crap ton more to tie with Dale Earnhardt Sr.
How many does Dale Sr. have?
76.
76.
And I have to correct Scott.
Kyle is a NASCAR nerd.
Lake Speed is the funniest name in NASCAR.
Dick Trickle.
That's an awesome name.
Get it? Junior Johnson.
That's the same as Dick Trickle.
Anyway, so
we were talking about the Roval at one point.
We're getting there.
That's how bad the Roval's going to be.
Yeah.
My paper's going to be awful. Anyway, the NASCAR guys raced at Richmond. I thought the race was adequate. Don't know if you guys happened to get a chance to watch it.
Which one?
I was busy.
I'd say both of them.
Okay. I watched Xfinity, I think, at home, and I watched the Cup race from the hotel room in Delaware.
They redid the infield and they pretty much redid the whole thing, but the actual racetrack at Richmond was a good call. I went to Richmond 2 years ago, and the improvements that I could tell that they made on TV looks really, really nice. However, the stands were not as full as I expected them to be
for a night race too. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was expecting a few more.
Put that tidbit in there.
Go ahead.
Racing wise, I think that was it. I don't know. Do you guys want to keep talking? I can move on to silly season.
I was going to talk about Bob Keselowski.
I don't know what you're talking about, but
I have
what is it, Josh?
Then hold on before we get off Richmond. All these people crying about we need more short tracks, and then they don't go support Richmond. Do you know that doesn't?
I don't think Richmond is that short.
Yeah, but it's in the grand scheme of things, it's not.
It is. When you go to watch a track at Richmond, I think it's a perfect size racetrack. It is.
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's
there's room to race. I love Richmond. I think it's a beautiful racetrack.
Yeah.
Because I mean, some people might even consider Dover a short track. No, it's a freaking mile.
No, Dover's big.
That's what I'm saying. But Bristol or Martinsville are what people are thinking of. When they're talking about short tracks.
Do you notice that one grandstand at Richmond looks like it's straight up in the air, that real tall one? Could you imagine having to sit way up? You probably like this.
Actually, the Prudential Center up in Newark there when I go for a Devils game.
What a lovely town.
Yeah. If you're up in the higher end, seriously, you're like, okay, I better watch my step because I'm going to go tumbling.
Yeah.
And there's nothing going to stop me.
Yeah.
And Sam, the modifieds are racing Richmond at the end of the year this year.
They are, which I think is a good thing. I've always enjoyed the modifieds at Richmond.
So are street stocks. That Mid-Atlantic Street Stock Tour is going to be there too with the modifieds with the Pass Tour.
And didn't Denny Hamlin used to have his charity event at Richmond, that late model race?
Couple years.
But now they moved that to Martinsville, which is coming up in a few weeks.
No, Langley.
No, they moved that to Langley. Martinsville has its own late model race. They have a 300-lap late model race every year.
The biggest late model race of the year. Sam.
You know what? I quit. Kyle, good luck with the show.
I was just going to say that Bob Keselowski set using an old, I believe it was an old Cup car, set a new record on the Salt Flats.
Like 200.
He could have killed
it. That's awesome. Dave Marcus once did that too with an old Cup car. It's pretty cool. I think Ray Everham even did something with an old Cup car out there too.
Yeah, I mean,
Ray Everham just won a race at VIR. Fun fact.
Yay.
Did you guys see
going back to the camp going? Josh helps bragging
the Roval. I forgot the account. Someone
how's
talking about Twitter.
Camp going?
There you go.
Someone tweeted today because there was a Fox tweeter over who do you think's gonna win the Roval, and then someone retweeted quoted the tweet and they're like Dale Jr.'s car graveyard or whatever it was.
Yeah.
But you know what's funny about that though? Usually when you're coming to a race and everybody thinks it's gonna be a wreck fest. It doesn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Because people are going to be so cautious now because they think it's going to happen.
I don't know. They're racing.
Kind of like our race Saturday at Wall when they said, "Oh, you guys are starting 29 factory stocks. It's going to be brutal out there," and it really wasn't. Yeah, there was a few wrecks. And
brutal.
Unfortunately, Tim Majak wrecked on the last lap of his race and still won, and his car was pretty destroyed.
Was he that far ahead, or did he wreck going across the line, or what happened?
I was right behind all that, because I was in that race. And all I saw was a lot of smoke. And next thing I saw, I'm like, wow, is that Tim? I think the lap car is wrecked in front of him. And he just floored it to get across the line. He just pushed his way across the line.
That's one way to do it, I guess.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, bring us into silly season real quick.
Okay, this is happening real quick. Spitfire right here. As for my friend Christian, because we had lunch today, he gave me all the silly season info. AJ Allmendinger is out of the 47. Ryan Newman is into the number 6 at Roush Fenway Racing. And Noah Gregson will be replacing Elliott Sadler over in that number 1 camp in the Xfinity Series next year. There's been no announcement on who's replacing the 40 or AJ in the 47. Trevor Baines without a ride. Where's Matt Kenseth going next year? Is he building a part-time Roush Fenway race car? Is Ross Chastain, Watermelon Boy, going to get a ride? I don't know.
Wait to see Ross Chastain in the 1 car, the Jamie McMurray car. The big piece of the puzzle we're waiting for is Kurt Busch. Kurt Busch has to announce what he's doing. That's what is really holding everything up.
I think
he's got to decide if he's in the 41 or the 1. And I think once he decides, then the other pieces will fall into place. The other thing is the 31 car, but there's a lot of rumors that Daniel Hemrick might move up from the Xfinity Series or Ty Dillon will get into that car. I think that'll be an in-house RCR deal going on over there.
It's pretty much the kid in the 19 that he's going to go somewhere. He's got a big paycheck behind
Yeah,
him.
he's got that money.
Yeah, but if Aris is no longer,
Well,
is there a
what they're
contract
trying
with
to,
that?
Aris has a contract with Gibbs through next year, and the contract is with the team, not the driver. So that's where all the conflict.
See, I heard it different. I heard Aris is with Daniel Suarez, with that Mexican connection.
That's what they want, but they're trying to figure all that out. But I mean, Suarez is going to land a ride. I heard the same thing. I think Hemrick's going to go into 31. I heard Priest into 47. We talked about him a lot.
I heard Trevor Payne's going to be cleaning the lunchroom at Sam's school.
Dude, man.
That's what Sam said. I don't know.
I sent one picture. I sent one picture in the group chat, and I get slain for not liking Trevor Payne.
So one thing I wanted to bring up from the Cup race. Did anyone see Hamlin make that save?
Yes.
Holy crap. That car was beyond gone, and I don't know how he hung on to that.
Side force.
Yeah, it was more than side force.
We don't even know where Martin Truex is going yet, right? There's nothing's confirmed there either.
He's going to go to that 19 car.
Yeah, he's going to go to 19.
Yeah.
I mean, you would think.
But are they going to keep it as the 19, or are they going to? I mean, is that up to
it'll
the
be
team?
The 19.
Oh, jeez, I have to buy more
However,
crappy gear. I hate when they do that. Don't you, Sam?
You guys are killing me this episode. I really want to get through this. Formula One guys are going to Russia this weekend. They were off this weekend. IndyCar finished up with the Scott Dixon Day, which was pretty cool to see.
I think that was a little overkill.
That is it. Well,
you stopped silly season until it's up.
I did.
That's it.
I did.
NASCAR.
I did. Yeah.
Russia?
You guys can end the show now, and I can go to bed and be happy.
No, you got to write your paper.
All right, Sam. What have we learned today?
Are we doing this already?
Apparently.
You said you had
to go.
Well, no. I've said the last 4 weeks in the RPM podcast I need to be out by 10:30, and then I always stick around.
I do have
10:35. So what have we learned today, Sam?
I have a question, real quick. A Wall Stadium question. Did they pack the track Saturday night?
It was pretty packed.
Yeah, there was a great
I don't
crowd at
think
Wall Stadium Saturday night.
I don't think it was as packed as the first Pack the Tracker one last month, but they had a really solid crowd.
What about the demo derbies? How did they go?
There wasn't enough cars for the 4 cylinders. Only 2 4-cylinders showed up, but they had 7 or 8 of the 8 cylinders, and the 8 cylinders put on a pretty good demo.
Good.
I think the mistake they made there is too close to the last one. I think what Diane doesn't understand with the demos, the guys don't use the cars over and over. They need time to build new ones. And it was a little too close to. We just had one a few weeks ago, so there wasn't many cars able to come back. And the ones that did come back were pretty beat up from the first demo a few weeks ago.
Right.
The biggest mistake is Cadillac Sam's not in the Demolition Derby.
Well, no, the big mistake is you're at college and you should be up here doing demolition derbies. You're wasting your time down.
I'm going to drop out tomorrow. I'll be back down in Jersey this weekend.
So Kyle, you mentioned Berkeley College, your sponsor, and all that. So, what year are you with college? Like, where and what are you going into?
So I'm technically a senior. I'm in my
Okay.
senior year. So one of the main reasons why I went back to when I went back to school, I want to go to Berkeley. They offer trimesters, so it eases me so I could get done a lot faster.
Okay.
So I could do 3 full semesters in a year. So currently in the fall semester, I'm projected to graduate.
This is like PVC.
Well, the wood's over there.
No, this window trim. There you go.
I don't want to knock the camera off again.
They don't teach you that at Berkeley.
They don't. No,
he's obviously not majoring in physics.
You would never think I got a 4.0. It's stupid.
Oh man.
So.
Oh man.
I'm supposed to be done this upcoming August, going business administration. So kind of goes hand in hand. I guess it worked out. I made a business deal with them to sponsor me on my race car. Right?
You're a business major?
Yeah, I am. So, but hey, I got them on my race car. I don't see many other sponsors on there, so I guess I'm doing all right. But
you should have the RPM podcast on there.
They already are. I did bring I'm not sorry, Cole. But, I did bring the RPM podcast into Victory Lane. It is on Facebook. I zoomed in on the picture to show everybody. So we did get the podcast in Victory Lane at Wall Stadium on Saturday. I'm very proud of that.
The most important question is if they let you pick a food now that you won for next Saturday, what are you going to pick? Gotta have pork
Dude,
roll on it, boy.
Man, I try to avoid racetrack food on race day. If
Well,
I go back as a
don't
fan,
winners get to pick the next week or what?
Yeah, usually, yeah.
well, we ain't going. We're traveling tour, so we ain't going back next
I was about
week.
to say, I don't
never
think
got that
TP
call
does
from
that.
Diane. So. But
It's, let's say it did happen. What would you pick?
Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches.
There you go.
So, I know where my paychecks are coming
There's
from.
nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, no. Well, go ahead, Sam.
Sam,
I was.
Could you imagine a Chick-fil-A sandwich with pork roll on top of it?
Or a Chick-fil-A sandwich with liver mush on top of it.
Thank you, Scott.
I just gonna steal out of my mouth. Liver mush.
I got a
We'll
lot
get
of
the
liver mush
no,
comments in the spotter
no.
stand this week in Loudon.
Okay, so anyway, Kyle. Besides Berkeley College, Chick-fil-A, your great girlfriend, all that. Anyone else you need to thank before I close the show?
There are.
Oh, sorry.
Oh my God, we could sit here another half hour for the people I need to thank. I'm gonna make.
But
this
we're not
quick.
going to.
I know you got to write that. We all need that college degree. You know, I wish you consider going to Berkeley College and enrolling, but you know.
Do they offer a graduate program?
What? Yeah.
Do they offer a graduate? All right, Berkeley College, sign me up.
Come on,
Let's
bring
go.
it on. Definitely my girlfriend Megan, who she ripped me a new one because I forgot to mention her in the Victory Lane interview. So,
well, it's over.
Megan, I love you very much. Thank you for putting
I
up
was
with
a
all my
girlfriend
crap.
one night.
Shit, man. Definitely. I mean, I mentioned all my team, and I'll mention him again. But another person I failed to mention in Victory Lane was Jeff Cott. He finished 4th, I think, on Saturday. He's definitely another one outside of Joey where I probably have a really close relationship with him. And he's just really been, just helping me get to where I'm at today. He's really been, a behind-the-scenes guy to get me to where I need to go. He's been a huge help. He's been part of the club for a long time, so he definitely has, a higher voice than me, I guess, or more, holds more weight. And he's definitely been able to help me to get where I need to go. So I would not be here without Jeff. Jeff, if you're listening, thank you very much.
Now subscribe.
Yeah. As I mentioned, obviously, Kyle Martin, he's the car owner. He's another person where without him saying, hey, Kyle, I want you to drive to 16 this year, I'm not racing at all. We're not even here talking. Obviously, Buddy Slode, he does so much for the club. He does so much for me.
Buddy's okay.
Buddy's a good guy.
He's okay.
And then obviously BJ McDonald building all the cars and just helping us out. And BJ, and I mentioned this on Facebook, BJ can sometimes be a really intimidating person. When you piss BJ off, you know it. So, but
does he have a pet monkey?
What? I don't know.
That's PJ McKay.
Wow, that's an oldie. You know that, huh?
But I am forever grateful for BJ McDonald because he is making me into a better racer all around.
When is your next race with the club? What's their next scheduled race?
Yeah, so we're and then before we get to that, Mike Glacier and John Smith, as I mentioned. So next race is at Waterford in 2 weeks. I think we're actually going to run that race, so I'm excited because that's a really fast track, and that's something totally out of left field compared to running the bottom at Wall Stadium. So I'm looking forward to just gaining experience and building that racing resume. We crown our champion. November 3rd at Bethel. That's a day show. Hopefully it doesn't snow up in New York in November, but whatever. We got a really tight points
Put
race
some treaded
right now.
tires on. You're good.
Hey man, whatever. I'll run it.
How do you pick what races you go to if you don't run the full schedule?
You're saying me personally? So
yeah, you personally.
Right. So I mean, Wall Stadium's my home track. It's 30 minutes from my house. That's the track where I grew up watching races at. That's the track that my family could really come to the most to watch me and share the moment, which was awesome on Saturday. I don't know if I mentioned earlier, but my grandfather, he's my biggest fan, and he was there. I have never seen my grandfather so choked up and broken down on Saturday like he was, and that was probably the only time where actually I almost cried or whatever was when I saw him and I hugged him. But that's what it's all about, man. That gets me pumped up, and but Wall Stadium's definitely my home track. That's also the track that Berkeley prefers for me to run because they're mostly they have
closer.
Right. Well, they're mostly northern New Jersey and New York school. I mean, their southernmost campus is Woodbridge, where I live.
Right.
And that's 30 minutes north of Wall Stadium. So they're trying. One of their goals is this year. Which goes hand in hand with what we're doing. They want to try to attract the South Jersey clientele to enroll in their school. And I'm not saying all the way down like by Cape May, but like
down
you know,
in Waretown.
Forked River here. That's a little too far south, but
It might as well be Alabama for.
Yeah, but but just thinking about like Wall Township, that area, Monmouth County, like that's right in the wheelhouse. So from a marketing standpoint, and then the fact that obviously me being a student there helps out a lot. So, but the relationship really goes hand in hand. And that's what makes everything so special, what we're doing. So to answer the question, definitely all the Wall Stadium races for sure. And then it just kind of comes down to additional funding. My belief as a driver, like I mentioned, I only ran like 10 or 11 races my entire life. So I really wanted to get good at one track in this car first before I really started branching out to other tracks because we are a touring series. I felt like for my own development, just so I could like learn the car and not jumping from one place to another. So I got to argue that it worked out pretty good, my plan. So definitely, looking to run like a Waterford. I have run Mahoning before. I never run Bethel, so maybe next year, maybe we do the last race. I don't know.
Well, any thoughts on the indoor series?
Man, I like the car and the condition that it's in right now. Okay, I would love to run indoor. To run if I ever ran one, it would be Atlantic City for sure. I definitely would love to do it. If someone came up to me and said, hey, we want you to run our car or whatever, I'm not going to say no to that. I would be open to running the indoor race, in our car. I know I just joked about keeping it in one piece, but obviously that's something I have to talk about my team. That's something where, I'd have to seek additional sponsorship, from Berkeley. That's something they'd be interested in. But
if you could fund it, you could do it? Or if a team says...
I mean, if Berkeley came up to me... Oh, God, Bill DeMasi, I hope you're listening right now. If Berkeley came up to me and said, we want to give you, the funding to run Atlantic City, I'm going to go to Colin Martin. I'm going to say, Colin, this is my, Berkeley's coming up to me. This is a race I've always wanted to run because I do. And as long as he gave the all clear and if my team was okay helping me out with everything, then we're going to run it and see what happens. But I'm definitely not opposed to running indoor. If the opportunity presents itself, but definitely my main focus is just being competitive in ATQMRA.
I mean, I know it's like you said, it's on the south end.
Well, you being a new to the sport as far as a driver, you said you grew up going to Wall Stadium and watch. I was just curious who your favorite driver was that kind of gave you the motivation to say, "Hey, I want to do this."
Dale Jr.
Really, it was Dale Jr. Like I never went to Wall cheering for somebody. I just went just to go to the race and just experience it. But, whenever I grew up, and like I mentioned, like my thing was looking forward to going to the NASCAR race. It was going to see Dale Jr. and see Dale Jr. win. And, my dad was a huge Dale Sr. fan. And then, I was like 6, 7 years old when I was actually like able to understand, like, hey, like stuff's going on the TV. So, like, I started liking Dale Jr. because, like, the father-son connection. Right. And then, obviously, we know what happened to Dale Sr. right around when that all started, and he became a Dale Jr. fan, and just it took off from there. And that was my childhood.
So who would you jump to now that Redneck Jesus has retired?
Oh, well, Ryan Blaney. So one of my best friends, who also is another person I should thank, Josh Williams. He's Ryan Blaney's spotter. He's definitely another person that motivates me and, helps me keep my head on straight and tells me where I need to.
Oh, those damn spotters.
Yeah. He definitely, he's definitely one that he's definitely the type of friend that tells you what you need to know, not always what you want to know. But him and I become really close over the last few years. So definitely, I cheer for him and Ryan. I'm also pretty good friends with Ryan Flores. So, he's a front tire changer for Blaney. So I have some connections to that team. So definitely cheering for them as well. And then two other people, Scott Stenzel, Camper World Truck Series driver. Hang on, Sam. I know. You got to write your paper.
This podcast pays enough.
Yeah. Scott Stenzel, Camper World Truck Series driver. He's another good friend of mine. He's also one of the other big reasons why I actually started racing, how the whole journey started. And his agent, Charlie Patterson from Indianapolis, both of those guys, huge influence me. Getting behind the wheel. Thank you so much.
And thank
All
you
right, Sam,
to
what have
Tim.
you learned?
Tim is our agent.
Well, real quick, Ryan Flores offered to help Eric, our own very own Eric Brennan, move down to North Carolina. Eric, we wish you nothing but the best in North Carolina.
Who?
And Ryan Flores is a cool guy.
I heard Eric. Ryan had dinner with Eric a couple nights ago.
Oh, I don't know about that. I had dinner with him on Saturday.
We don't want to know about that.
I talked to Ryan today. We do have Ryan Flores scheduled for later on in the year.
At some point, we have Andrew Krause at some point. Go ahead.
And Ted Rowe and Jimmy Blewett and every race car driver under the sun.
Yeah.
All right, Sam, go ahead. Take the reins.
All right. So before we end the show, we always do what we learned today. And because I want to get out of here, I'm going to start. Drivers aren't supposed to be chunky. I learned that from our first guest.
Bruce Cook?
Yes, Mr. Bruce Cook. Joey Bailey has a nice boat. Condiments make cool nicknames. You can't do it without a good piece. And Kyle Tabasco is a kiss ass.
Of who?
The RPM podcast.
Oh, well, why? Because I drove through a monsoon to get here?
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
That's part of it.
And you put us in victory lane. So you have to catch up with Scott Riggleman. Scott Riggleman has like half a dozen, maybe even a dozen victories with the RPM podcast in victory lane. So you got to catch up.
Yes.
Scott, what did you learn today?
I learned that Bruce Cook has a potty mouth.
Yes, he does.
I have a little bit of work ahead of me.
I learned that Tim Riggleman did not ride the Ferris wheel at New Hampshire.
Nope.
And I learned that Ryan Tabasco has a lot of people to thank because we sat a half hour listening to him.
Tim, what did you learn?
I learned that my new best friend next to me has Chick-fil-A in the pits at Wall Stadium.
Come on over.
I will.
Yeah.
Don't you worry about that.
We'll be there Turkey Derby.
I also learned that Bruce Cook doesn't hold back when he's talking, so that's.
Josh has a lot of editing to do.
Yeah, sadly.
And I learned that Sam's very cranky when he's in a rush.
Yeah.
Love you guys. I do. I love you guys.
Kyle, what'd you learn?
I learned that the Rigglemans like to put liver or some type of crap like that on their Chick-fil-A sandwiches.
No, that's just a joke.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought I learned something.
I was serious about the pork roll though on the Chick-fil-A sandwich.
I'd give it a shot. I also learned that Joey Bailey has a boat, and and why I'm not invited on that boat. Maybe after I beat him now, I may not ever be on that boat. And I don't know. I learned that everyone calls Dale Jr. the Redneck Jesus.
Yeah, well, yeah. We're working on that. We're working on spreading that. Thank you, John Keane, for that.
Josh, what did you learn today?
I learned that once a racer gets something out of the box, the first thing he has to do is F with it. I learned that we would rather drink beer than play golf. I learned that if
Why not both?
You'll
hashtag Top Golf.
Yeah. Just no. I learned that if you win, don't get beer in the carburetor or apples on the hood. I learned that Kyle Taraska is Hoosiered out.
Yeah.
I also learned that Kyle has a full package. And I learned that Scott likes Ferris wheels.
All right. With that, before this gets any longer, thank you for listening to
Tim did. What about Tim?
I went. I did.
Tim went.
Yeah.
Tim went. Kyle, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for surviving Hurricane Florence Jr. out there in the Northeast there. Yep. We hope to have you back for the third time. If not, that's cool, man. Just don't forget to bring me Chick-fil-A. Josh, thank you for everything you do the show. Tim, Scott, another great episode of the RPM Podcast. Check us out on Facebook /Racing Podcast NJ, Twitter @the RPM Podcast. Use the hashtag the RPM Podcast to stay updated to everything motorsports related. I think that's it.
I think my contact's starting to fall out.
Go to Wall.
Yeah, go to Wall, and thanks for listening to the RPM Podcast.
Share this with your friends, and then go to Wall.
Lock them in your car. Good night, everybody.
Good night.